So it is important in times like these to have a distraction. And that's why I want to personally extend my gratitude to Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively.
The times where people ignore the red flags and say, let's just keep pushing, those are the times where you fail. The majority of things that we're buying are created by men. You always learn more from your failures than you do your success.
Total chaos erupted after Chelsea Handler publicly mocked Blake Lively during the 2025 Critics' Choice Awards. Handler made a biting joke about Blake's legal battle, calling it a ridiculous distraction, and even thanked her for the entertainment. The entire Hollywood audience burst into laughter, making it clear that Blake's attempt to play the victim had completely backfired. It seems there won't be a sequel. It really does end with us. People say Blake Lively once saw herself as Hollywood royalty, believing everyone sympathized with her and bought into her narrative. But that illusion shattered the moment Chelsea Handler took the stage. It was a brutal takedown, almost like a public execution. Handler didn't just target Blake, she also took aim at Justin Baldoni in front of Hollywood's elite. Safe to say Blake was not amused? The Critics' Choice Awards are usually a predictable, polite affair filled with standard speeches. But this year, Handler turned the event into a complete roasting of Blake Lively's PR disaster. She held nothing back, stepping on stage like she was wielding a flamethrower, and she aimed it directly at Blake. The most shocking part? Hollywood didn't rush to defend Blake. Instead, they laughed. Genuinely, not out of discomfort, but with real enjoyment. It was a clear message. Hollywood is done with Blake's sob story. Handler's final remarks were especially ruthless, making it evident that the film industry has moved on from Blake's legal drama. The media has lost interest, and even some of Blake's closest Hollywood friends seem to be laughing at her now. Entering December 2024, Blake likely thought she was on the verge of a major victory. She might have imagined herself as a fearless female warrior fighting for justice in a grand courtroom battle. But reality had other plans, and Chelsea Handler made sure everyone saw it.
He told us that Justin Baldoni claims she tried to take over his movie because she has a history of saying, okay, I'll be the star, but what I secretly want to do is direct it and edit it and produce it. I want all the roles for me and only me. I want full control because I am a controlling bully. That Justin Baldoni, ultimately, by the time they got to the premiere, was mandated by Blake Lively to spend the night in the basement away from his co-stars and didn't even get to see the final cut of his own movie because Blake Lively insisted that she be the one to approve it.
Blake sued Justin Baldoni, accusing him of harassment and spreading harmful rumors to tarnish her reputation. She thought she would defeat him and emerge as a courageous survivor. But there was one major issue. Baldoni refused to accept blame for a story he claimed was completely fabricated. She filed a complaint with the California Human Rights Division, which, according to Baldoni's lawyers, was nothing more than a strategic move. It was allegedly designed to push the New York Times into publishing a major article attacking him and boosting Blake's public image. Then, in January 2025, Baldoni struck back with his own massive lawsuit, $400 million for defamation and civil extortion against Blake, Ryan Reynolds, and the New York Times. And guess what? He brought hard evidence to support his claims, and it does not look good for Blake. He also sued the New York Times for reckless reporting, pointing out major mistakes in its coverage of the case. Some even believe those errors were intentional. Blake's entire lawsuit collapsed just as quickly as her once stellar reputation. Texts, emails, and video clips exposed countless contradictions in her claims, revealing a string of fabricated stories. She manipulated the facts to present herself as a victim, but Baldoni provided solid proof that she was the one distorting the truth. He had HR documents and other key records that painted him not as a villain, but as someone who had been wrongly accused. Chelsea Handler saw all of this unfold and used her award show platform to mock Blake's so-called victim act. She never outright called Blake a liar. But she didn't have to. The crowd's laughter said everything. Why are we in this situation, Blake? Because she was the one who filed this lawsuit, not Justin. If Hollywood truly believed her and Ryan Reynolds, do you think they would be laughing? If they took Blake's case seriously, this wouldn't be funny. But they don't. And that speaks volumes about how far she has fallen.
Was what Blake says, a conversation that she heard had taken place with Steve Sarowitz. Steve Sarowitz is the head of Wayfair Studios. He is the co-founder of Wayfair Studios, along with Justin. And she says in this lawsuit that, and is it interesting? She says, this is what I heard he said, but it's presented as a quote in the lawsuit. She says that Steve said, "I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas."
Blake planned to feed her side of the story to tabloids, portraying Baldoni as a villain while securing public sympathy. Unfortunately for her, Chelsea Handler saw right through it and exposed everything live on TV. This was a disaster for Blake and Ryan. The Critics' Choice Awards is typically filled with industry insiders and studio executives who usually shower celebrities with praise. Yet even they couldn't help but laugh at this situation. Blake's PR team had been working tirelessly, spinning stories about Baldoni long before the case even reached court. They wanted the public to see Blake as a courageous victim and Baldoni as the antagonist, but Baldoni fought back with hard evidence. Now, people are saying that unless Blake can produce solid proof for her accusations, Justin deserves justice. He is determined to restore his reputation, continue making films, and move forward with his life. He also has emails suggesting that Blake's team orchestrated these attacks from the very beginning. She even dragged the New York Times into it, using them to spread her one-sided narrative. That turned out to be a major misstep, as Baldoni is now suing the publication for $250 million. In response, the New York Times is scrambling to distance itself from Blake as quickly as possible. Even gossip tabloids, outlets that rarely hesitate to print controversial stories, are refusing to touch Blake's claims. Chelsea Handler effortlessly mocked the entire fiasco, sarcastically thanking Blake for providing such entertaining drama. Her remarks made it clear, this case was never about real justice. It was a PR stunt that completely backfired. Meanwhile, Blake was at home, scrolling through social media, watching as the internet tore her apart in real time. This was the exact opposite of what she had planned. She wanted to manipulate the system, play the victim, and establish herself as a new feminist icon. Instead, she has become the punchline of a Hollywood scandal. To me, she comes across as a demanding diva who expected unquestioning support. Blake truly believed she could throw out serious accusations, and the world would blindly rally behind her. But reality has proven otherwise, and now she's paying the price.
He and 9 other plaintiffs, including his publicists, have brought a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times, essentially alleging them of libel and false light invasion of privacy. So Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, he told BBC's partner CBS that the newspaper aided and abetted a smear campaign designed to revitalise Lively's floundering image.
Baldoni had enough proof to expose Blake's lies. One of the biggest examples was the bizarre breastfeeding scandal. Blake claimed that Baldoni made inappropriate remarks while she was breastfeeding on set. A shocking accusation. But the truth? It was completely fabricated. Baldoni's text messages revealed that Blake had actually invited him into her trailer while she was breastfeeding, proving she wasn't some helpless victim. In fact, she frequently brought up breastfeeding in their casual conversations. It was Blake who made it a topic of discussion, not Baldoni. Once people saw those messages, it became clear she was twisting the truth yet again. Hollywood award shows often encourage jokes, so kudos to Chelsea Handler for speaking up. Maybe she could have gone even harder on Blake and Ryan, but she kept it balanced. In reality, she didn't even need to say much. The damage was already done. By the time she finished, Hollywood was openly laughing at Blake's so-called trauma. And when an entire industry laughs at you instead of supporting you, it means your time is up. That's just how Hollywood works. No one wants to be caught giggling, but when something is this ridiculous, they can't hold it in. If Blake still had any real respect left, Handler's jokes would have been met with dead silence, but that didn't happen. Huge stars in the audience, like Orlando Bloom and Margot Robbie, were laughing and cheering. They were just waiting for someone to say what everyone had been thinking. Blake Lively's victim act is a joke. Now, let's talk about who didn't laugh or step up to defend Blake. If Hollywood actually believed her story, someone powerful would have come to her rescue. But no one did. And one absence was especially noticeable. Taylor Swift. If Blake were truly suffering, her best friend would have spoken out, right? But Swift fell silent the moment Baldoni's evidence came to light. That silence said everything.
that she became uncomfortable with Justin Baldoni yesterday while she was filming. She states that Mr. Baldoni put his bare hands on her backside and said that he was trying to help her with her posture. Complainant immediately voiced her displeasure with being touched on an intimate part of her body, and Mr. Baldoni responded with, "It's fine. I'm totally hot for my wife," in a dismissive tone.
This was clearly intentional. Hollywood despises scandals that could tarnish its reputation. If Taylor Swift isn't willing to stand up for you, it means you are no longer worth saving. Swift's team became concerned when they heard Baldoni might call her as a witness. The moment Swift realized this was a real legal battle and not just Hollywood gossip, she distanced herself faster than Blake's credibility collapsed. Swift is highly strategic and always protects her image, but the trouble for Blake doesn't end with her. Ryan Reynolds, often seen as Hollywood's golden boy, has been dragged into this scandal too, and it's not looking good for him. Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit also names Reynolds as a key player in Blake's scheme. Reports suggest that Ryan tried to take control of Baldoni's movie, rewriting scenes and even bringing in his own editor to alter the film. This wasn't just about defending his wife, he was actively trying to sabotage the movie for his own benefit. When Baldoni refused to comply, Blake suddenly accused him of harassment. It all seems like a desperate move. So who is telling the truth? Is Baldoni some creep who sabotaged his own film? Or is Blake a demanding actress who cries victim whenever? Things don't go her way. Hollywood never forgets a scandal, and this one is spiraling into a massive PR disaster. Even Ryan Reynolds seems to be slowly distancing himself from Blake. Chelsea Handler didn't just make jokes about Blake, she took shots at Ryan too. She hinted that there would be no sequel. And she wasn't just referring to the movie. This could also apply to their careers. Blake deserves this reckoning because she needs to be held accountable for her actions. This isn't bullying, it's consequences. If Reynolds thought his Deadpool-style humor would keep him safe, he might want to think again. Funny tweets and charming interviews won't erase the fact that he is now entangled in one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. In Blake's first amended complaint,
Blake changed what she alleges about what happened while filming the slow dance scene, now that the footage has been released for everyone to see. So what they're saying is, now that, Justin Baldoni shared the truth of what it looks like, they're no longer making the same claims. Previously, they said Miss Lively was filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Of course, Justin proved there was sound. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Miss Lively out of character as himself.
the reason why Blake's downfall feels even more brutal. Hollywood is a tough place, and loyalty only lasts as long as your reputation stays intact. Once the tide turned, even those who once stood by Blake quietly distanced themselves. Ryan Reynolds, known for his sharp wit and charm, now finds himself trapped in this PR nightmare. He may have thought his usual humor and likability would shield him, but this scandal is too big to joke away. Chelsea Handler's comments didn't just poke fun at Blake, they sent a warning shot to Ryan as well. If he doesn't handle this carefully, his own career could take a serious hit. At the end of the day, Hollywood thrives on image. Once that image is tarnished, it's nearly impossible to clean up. Blake and Ryan's once polished reputation is now covered in controversy, and no amount of PR spin can fully fix it. The industry has moved on, the media has turned, and even close friends are walking away. The question now isn't just about whether Blake can recover, it's about how much damage she'll take down with her before this storm finally passes.
And that's part of the point that Justin's team is making in kind of complying with what they're viewing as threats made on her behalf against Justin is like, well, there's this financial consequence to everything in addition to the strike consequences too, right? So they filmed May to June, then shut down for the strike, and then they were down until January. But I think that the strike lifted in November, but then she had all these return to work provisions.
Was another desperate move, one that only made her look more guilty. It mirrored the tactics Amber Heard used when she tried to silence Johnny Depp, but just like in that case, the public isn't buying it. People aren't blindly siding with Blake simply because she plays the victim. Instead, they're looking at the facts, and the evidence doesn't support her claims. Hollywood thrives on drama, but it also values credibility. Once you lose that, it's nearly impossible to get it back. Chelsea Handler's jokes weren't just for laughs, they were a signal that the industry has moved on. The audience's reaction was proof. If Blake had any credibility left, those jokes would have been met with awkward silence. Instead, the room erupted in laughter because at this point, no one takes her seriously. Blake's plan was simple: paint herself as the underdog, weaponize public sympathy, and take down Baldoni with emotional storytelling. But she underestimated one thing: the truth. The messages, the leaked documents, and the timeline all show major inconsistencies in her story. The more people look into it, the worse it gets for her. Ryan Reynolds, once untouchable in Hollywood, now finds himself at a crossroads. His reputation is taking a hit simply because of his connection to this mess. He may love his wife, but Hollywood, loyalty only lasts so long. The question is, how long before he chooses to distance himself? If past Hollywood scandals have taught us anything, it's that self-preservation always comes first. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift's silence speaks volumes. At the beginning, she subtly supported Blake, liking posts and offering quiet encouragement. But the moment Baldoni's evidence surfaced, she disappeared. That wasn't an accident. Swift is incredibly strategic, and she knows when to walk away. If even she won't stand by Blake now, that tells you everything you need to know. Blake's lawsuit has officially backfired. What started as an attempt to destroy Baldoni's career has now left her own in ruins. And as the truth continues to unfold, it's clear that there's no comeback story waiting for her. Only a long, slow fall from grace.
Asking for the gag order and explaining how he's talking too much. He's threatening to post stuff on public sites. So what I think is this looks good for Baldoni, right? He's like, we want to make it all public. And sometimes lawyers can do this knowing that they can't actually do what they say they're going to do.
Handler's roast made one thing clear: Blake's case is crumbling, much like Amber Heard's did. Hollywood is watching closely to see if the trial in March 2026 will be the moment Blake's career comes to a complete halt. This isn't just a minor scandal that will fade from the tabloids. It's a stain that could follow her forever. Just as people still associate Amber Heard with her legal battle against Johnny Depp, Blake might never escape the shadow of this lawsuit. It's becoming increasingly obvious that this case was not well thought out, and Blake may already regret filing it, especially since the industry seems to wish she would drop it and move on. Handler wasn't just cracking jokes. She was making a statement. She effectively announced to Hollywood, here's your new Amber Heard. And the most brutal part? She wasn't wrong. Her performance on stage wasn't just about the lawsuit. It highlighted the slow-motion collapse of Blake's entire career. The audience wasn't just entertained by a clever remark. They were witnessing Blake's public downfall. That kind of laughter is like a verdict from the industry itself. Hollywood is tired of this drama and wants it over. Blake once had the image of America's sweetheart, the flawless actress who could do no wrong. But that golden image is now shattered piece by piece thanks to this lawsuit. Her best friend has distanced herself. Her husband is trapped in the fallout. She has been publicly humiliated. And soon, she'll face the very real possibility of losing in court. Justin Baldoni maintains that he never harassed her. He insists that all he ever did was try to manage her unreasonable demands on set. He even went out of his way to accommodate her, just to ensure she completed filming. But now, with the final showdown set for March 2026, if Blake loses, it won't just be a courtroom defeat. It will be the end of Hollywood's support for her. Handler's final jab about no sequel wasn't just about the movie. It was about Blake's entire future in the industry. After this, there might be no second act for her. Chelsea Handler simply said out loud what the rest of Hollywood was too afraid to admit.